We live? We live, Nicholas?
Sure looks like it.
Jesus Christ, I never know what you're doing back there.
Is that a movie quote?
Yeah, it's from Wedding Crashers. I never know what she's doing back there.
I don't know that movie well enough. Oh,
fuck!
Jeez.
I never know what she's doing back there.
That guy had a hang gliding accident. What an idiot.
What an idiot.
I cite that one a lot. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that movie, Nicholas, is funky butt loving. Let me tell you.
I can't talk about that movie too much. I'll get chastised in the chat.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about the Hall of Fame. Two ways to get Nicholas riled up real fast.
I'm passionate about my baseball, and I won't apologize for it.
He is. No, and you shouldn't, Nicholas. You shouldn't.
Thank you.
With that said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, TLDR Studios proudly presents to you the greatest, and I mean the greatest, podcasting team in the world. He's a comic book writer, Nick Frider. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. Together we are the TLDR Comic Book Club. Baby, how's it going, Nicholas?
I'm doing just friggin' dandy, and I think we're actually living up to the title that I don't know who called us the greatest podcasting team in the world first. I know it wasn't you. You wouldn't give us too much credit right off of the rip, but I think we are living up to that moniker because we got what's new this week. We had what's new last week. Our loyal listeners know what that generally means. It means we're doing some Friar Side Chats. And of course, you guys heard from Kyle Higgins most recently. If you haven't listened to that chat already, make sure you go and check it out. We talked to him about Radiant Black in the new era, in the Massiveverse, the rebuild era. There's so much going on. We put some stuff up on YouTube as well. There's still more to be added ahead of the FOC, which is the 3rd. So that's going to be coming up on you guys real quick. But Joe, I had a great time talking with Kyle and getting some more insight on some of the announcements that he's already made. I felt like we were able to really dig in on some of the details that I know he'd shared on his stream previously, the Massiveverse YouTube page. And I feel like we know a lot more than most in our listeners too, going into the rebuild era.
Oh, baby, do we ever. And he dropped some great stuff with us, none of which was really some of which wasn't great podcasting because there was a lot of visual stuff that he shared with us during our chat, but which you cut up an awesome video to show some of those images of what's coming up, in the rebuild era with Radiant Black. And Kyle was kind enough to share with us, issue 31, and we'll get to an early look in that in just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
But holy cow, Nicholas, like the artwork in the Massiveverse in general has been stellar across the board. But some of these new characters, the character designs that we're getting absolutely blew me away. Some of the cover art for some of these books that are coming up, the concepts with the sort of the B covers being connecting covers. Excellent stuff. So I highly recommend checking out that chat with Kyle.
Yeah, and if you're wondering where can I see the video, where can I see some of this artwork, go to our YouTube page, go to our Instagram page, go to our TikTok page. Those are the places you're going to find those videos. We also post them, generally speaking, on Blue Sky as well, but we're definitely most active over on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram when it comes to video. And the reason you can't find the full-length video anywhere is because we only do Friar Side Chats on our audio channels. We only release them in audio form. So make sure you subscribe to one of our audio channels. We're talking Apple, Spotify, Geeks Worldwide Radio, Amazon, Pocket Cast, all the major platforms we're there. And if you're finding us, on Twitter right now or on Blue Sky, on YouTube or on Instagram, and you're wondering, like, if you're trying to find that stream, we do this stuff in video form. We'll always do what's new in video form, but make sure you subscribe to one of those audio channels right now so you can listen to those conversations and leave a 5-star rating and review while you're there. Otherwise, you're going to learn the real meaning of backcracker. And I got a little slipped up there, Joe, because I realized this is actually going to be our final Twitter stream that we're going to do on the show. We're still doing YouTube. We're still doing Instagram Live. We're just not going to be available on that platform from a video standpoint. So we want to make sure we put that out there. Did do one last one for you guys, so that way whoever follows us and catches that stream over there. But we'll still be doing video stuff. It will just only be on YouTube and Instagram, but we'll publicize it everywhere else accordingly. But other than that, Joe, we do got a lot to get to. I know you mentioned that early look, but before we do that, I know you had something you wanted to catch up on real quick.
Yeah, I meant to throw this in last week's catching up, but it was just too excited. Too excited. Since we had that chat that we were just coming off of with Kyle Higgins. But the newest volume of Sync came to us through Kickstarter, Nicholas, and that's Sync Just Desserts with two absolutely tremendous stories. Sync, of course, written by John Lees with horrific art by Alex Cormack, who I think I said create a new color dubbed Murder Red, and it was funny. We had a nice little Twitter back and forth. Was it Twitter? I can't remember where. About his color palette being just shades of red, and he must have gone through his entire supply of red because the first story, Bus Terminus, was nothing but red. It was as violent a story as I have read in the Sync universe, and that's saying something because there have
Yeah,
been some extraordinarily wildly violent stories. But the other story, Artisan Burger, was great as well. So these, I think, were two of my favorite Sync stories. Period. Volumes 1 and 2, the dig, the last few volumes they're all tremendous. This, like I said, this is on my Mount Rushmore of all time comic series, of horror comic series, and I think it's the best horror comic going right now. And these two books, I I'm not going to say recency bias here because like I really truly believe like these two stories, and John said it himself, are some of his favorite. They were excellent, excellent, excellent. So if you're able to get your hands on a copy of Sync Just Desserts, I highly recommend doing so. I think you might be able to buy it through John's website. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that, but you should go there, check it out. Anyways, when the next Kickstarter campaign gets announced, I highly recommend jumping on board because you can get all the past volumes and issues of Sync, whether in physical copy or if you don't want to shell out the money, you can get the newest in physical and the old ones digitally. There's many different options, so I highly, highly recommend Sync to anyone who loves great comics, especially great horror comics.
it is definitely my favorite thing going over on Kickstarter, and it's definitely we have it as when we did this with Keith. I think for our best all time horror comics that ended up taking the number one spot. It's outstanding. It is. I mean, for both of us, it is our number one horror comic of all time. Did you say you also have it? Because I know you were going through a few different explanations there. Do you also have it in your Mount Rushmore definitively of all time comics, or is it just definitively on horror comics?
Definitively horror comics. The Mount Rushmore of all time comics. That requires a lot more
Yeah.
thought, and
Yes.
it could be a top 10 for sure. But when it comes to like horror specifically, yeah, it's Mount Rushmore, if not numero uno one.
Yep, 100%. We're in agreement on that one. It is definitely it's up there when it comes to all-time comics, like just regardless of genre for sure. But it would we both haven't sat down and tried to figure that out. Maybe that's something we'll do someday on like a, 25 years into the 21st century. It would probably be a good year to do something like that. But I just had like three ideas come to my head for that. But no, we're not doing that right now. Certainly not today. We got plenty to get to, including an early look. Joe mentioned it before. We got Radiant Black issue 31. The FOC for this is February 3rd. The release date for it is February 26th. This is something where if you haven't been in on the Masterverse, it's okay. You can jump in on this story. But at the same time, if you're like Joe and I, well, Joe's been reading it since day one. I read it as soon as he talked about it on the show. If you've been reading it for the majority of the time, if you are all caught up, this is a great way. This is a great time to get back in. The wait is well worth it. Of course, this is the first issue post Catalyst War to kick off the rebuild era. And my biggest takeaway, Joe, was this story just got a heck of a lot more mature. And that's not necessarily in terms of action, because we've seen quite a few wild moments, and we talked with Kyle about it. I felt like in the Marshall timeline, we saw one kill from Marshall that was just like, holy crap. But for me, it's more about the maturity of the tone. Marshall is what he's dealing with as a human being, and then what he's also dealing with behind the mask of Radiant Black. Both angles have gotten pretty heavy.
Yeah, yeah, and then the way this particular issue ends was like, holy shit! Especially after just coming off the chat with Kyle too.
Yep.
So like, if you want some clues, they're buried in there in that chat. right? So I would highly
Oh yeah,
recommend giving it a listen, right? And so, this issue was something else. Like
yeah,
the Catalyst War was just absolutely crackers, like start to it was very ambitious and really shifted the tone, the tenor of the series in a different direction. And then this issue just really kicked it up a notch, right? Gave it the bam emerald treatment,
yeah.
and kicked it up. So excellent, excellent stuff.
Yeah, a real nice shift in way of differentiating from what we've gotten previously. So yeah, some awesome stuff from Radiant Black. Again, FOC for that. Let your local comic shop know that you want it. Do so by February 3rd to make sure that you have a copy of that when it comes out on February 26th. But that's an early look. We got plenty else to talk about this week in what's new, Joe. Why don't you kick us off with Marvel, please?
All right. So dropping on the week of January 29th, 2025, we have X-Men issue 10, Ultimate X-Men issue 11, Deadpool issue 10, Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu issue 4, Spider-Boy issue 15, West Coast Avengers issue 3, Psylocke issue 3, Hellhunters issue 2, Sabretooth The Dead Don't Talk issue 2, Star Wars Ewoks issue 4, What If Galactus Transformed Spider-Gwen issue 1, Star Wars A New Legacy issue 1, and Storm Life Dream issue 1.
I have two things here. One, when are we going to get a What If Galactus Transformed doc? We've gotten pretty much everybody except you at this point, so I don't know what they're waiting for at Marvel. And two, did you read the first issue of Hellhunters? I feel like you did and you enjoyed it. I know we're not talking about any Marvel books necessarily this week, but did you read that first issue?
I feel like I did, but I don't remember.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Yeah. It was something that I think I highlighted for you a while back when we did it in solicit. The solicit would have been December, I guess.
I'm going to a quick update, right? I am currently at, I want to say, Nicholas, I am currently at 93 books for the month.
Nice. Look at
For the
you.
month. We're 28 days in. I've read 93 books. I am hell bent on getting to 100. Keeping it 100 by the end of the month.
And you need to average 80 something, you said, right?
83 and a half, right? So
nice.
I gotta really average 83 to 84 books a month
Yeah.
if I want to I want to get there.
Yeah, but you got to front load it because you take so much vacation time.
Well, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what.
I couldn't help myself. Sorry.
I got no problem. Hey, you
no,
gotta
I'm
treat yourself,
laughing.
Nicholas.
From laughing. It wasn't that good of a joke. That was anyways. But
Okay,
yes.
Felger.
Yeah. Is that something he does? He laughs at his own joke?
No. He makes fun of people for taking vacation time. Remember Mac Jones? He
God.
couldn't make it back for fucking Vrabel's press conference because I don't know, he was getting engaged. I don't know, a fairly significant life moment.
Oh yeah, okay. I didn't know that. Okay, no, I have heard those stories. Okay, that's fair. Definitely misunderstood that. But anyways, moving on. So that's it from Marvel this week. No breakdowns from us. We're not going to have any breakdowns from DC necessarily either. An interesting week for them. So we got Green Lantern issue 19, everybody's favorite series, Batman Wayne Family Adventures issue 149, and then a couple of one shots. Superman Lex Luthor special issue 1, DC Power Rise of the Power Company issue 1. That actually may be a series. DC's Lex in the City issue 1, which I know you're a fan of the title at least, Joe.
That's a fucking tremendous title.
It is. It really is. I hope that does well. And then the Untold Legend of the Batman Limited Edition, which I believe is a collection of some older stories. What about Dark Horse?
From Dark Horse, we have Masters of the Universe / Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles of Gray Skull, issue 3. Wild issue, wildly fun issue. Star Wars The High Republic Adventures, issue 14. Nightclub 2, issue 5. Holy cow. This has just been an absolute banger of a series. I believe I talked about Nightclub. I can't remember exactly when I talked about Nightclub on the program, but I did go into it in detail. This is by Mark Miller. This is an absolute tremendous series. Swartha, Echoes of Fear, issue 4. Swartha Dispatches from the Occlusion Zone, issue 4. For those new to the show, Swartha is my shorthand for Star Wars The High Republic Adventures, because I'm not fucking saying that 10 times an episode. We have Critical Role Vox Machina Origins, issue 5. Never Heard of Me issue 2, Swartha Annual issue 1, and then we do have a book, Nicholas, that we would like to discuss from a Dark Horse, and that is Seance in the Asylum issue 4.
Yeah, this is the finale to the story written by Clay McLeod Chapman, with art by Leandro Marcelo Grassi and colors by Mauro Gulma. And I really want to make sure we call out Mauro in this issue because the art in this series was outstanding, both the coloring and the line work. But I felt like in this issue we got the full width, we got everything, the full range that these two creators had to offer, from an art standpoint, from artistic standpoint, and it enhanced the story so much from start to finish. And then and this is also, again, like, we're dealing with the ending here, which I'm sure in some ways you and I would love to see more from this story, but at the same time, it's very appropriate that this has a definitive ending. And this thing was absolutely absurd. I did not see it coming. It was so damn fitting, and it leaves you guessing right up until the last page. And I'll tell you what, for me, after reading this series, I wasn't familiar with Clay McLeod Chapman coming into the series. I am going to be looking for Chapman's work going forward because I loved Seance in the Asylum.
Man, this book was absolutely wild, and I had no idea what direction that this final issue was going to go in. And they're sort of leading you down this path, and then um, to have that moment that you get, I think is, and especially this was 4 issues, right?
Yeah,
Or 5 issues, 4 issues,
or
yeah. To be able to tell that tight of a story in 4 issues and have that kind of surprise and sort of revelation in that final book is really something else. Because I think a lot of times it's like, okay, it's a 4 issue series, really just kind of, all right, you spent 3 issues, sort of boom, and then let's wrap it up real quick in the 4th issue and get the story told. No, that wasn't the case here, right? They told the story they wanted to tell. That it was woven together perfectly. And this book is haunting on so many different levels,
hmm
right? There's the layers to it, and the way that it sort of, they pull those loose threads all together. And it was really something else, Nicholas. It really was something else. And I cannot praise this book enough. It was absolutely fantastic.
I know with people have mixed feelings when it comes to shorts, like indie stories that are very like short, quick, and limited, and then they also want to have ongoing stories that are also from indies as well. And we do like both. I mean, obviously, like Something is Killing the Children, which we'll talk about the Slaughterverse a little bit later. Like, you and I don't want to see that ever end. Radiant Black, we don't want to see that ever end either. But at the same time, we love it when we can see a nice tight story, whether that's in 4 issues, 5, 6, maybe you extend it out to 8. That's fine, but just something that is concise. It has a mission and it accomplishes it. Silence in the Asylum is absolutely a great example of that. And again, like, I want to read more from Chapman. I'm going to look and see if I can find more from him. And quite honestly, Joe, this is someone who we haven't had on the program obviously before. We may need to fix that at some point down the line. Obviously, we're pretty jam packed right now, but maybe ahead of the trade, or if something else comes down the line from Clay.
Yeah, it was tremendous. And when this comes out in a trade, this is a book you buy, you have in your collection. This is a book you buy for any
Yeah.
comic book fan in your life, especially if they're a horror fan.
Yes.
It's just I bet it will read. I mean, it read really well month to month. But in a trade, get them. It's you're gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna fly through this thing, and I say that is a positive, is a good thing.
100%. Yeah. Whenever we say that, it's not a bad thing for sure. And also, like, just for our buddy Rich Keefe, don't wait forever. Don't drag your feet on this one, buddy. Go pick that up. This is definitely something. To me, I look at this in a similar like vein as Harrower. I think Harrower could continue onward. I know you've since read that. I know it took a little bit, but like, that was great, tight, and everything. Did have room to go beyond, but in terms of like all-time horror comics conversation, I feel like it's, when we do top tens, it's like just on that outside. If I think about it more, depending on the day, it might sneak in. But like, we obviously we just finished it, so maybe there's some recency bias, but this is quality work. 100.
Yeah. It's excellent.
Moving over to the reigning publisher of the year, and they said, you know what, we heard you guys, so now we got to level up. And holy shit, what a week! We got a lot to talk about from Mad Cave Studios. First, listen a couple off that we're not breaking down: Dick Tracy issue 7, String issue 3, Long Cold Winter issue 2, Kosher Mafia issue 5, Exit City issue 3. And as much as we're not breaking those down right now, we each read those books. The only one that I did read the first issue of String, but I haven't stuck. I didn't stick with it. But yeah, we're still reading all of the books that they have coming out this week, with one exception. But then there are 4 that we want to break down that we are both reading. I will let you decide on what direction you want to go in first.
Okay, Nicholas. So we're going to start with the book that absolutely made my eyeballs pop, my jaw drop. And that was just from the first effing page, maybe even the first several panels. And that is Kill Train, issue 1. Can you pull up who wrote and who drew that book for me? I should have had that to go
Yes, sir.
right from the get go. But while Nick looks that up, Kill Train, issue 1, Mad Cave Studios. Holy cow. This book it starts off bam, right at 1,000 miles an hour, and then like it pumps the brakes, right, and it gets into the story, which is very engaging. You sort of meet your main characters, and it sort of sets up the premise of what this kill train is, right. It's sort of a way of thinning out the herd, if you will. And as you learn more about the kill train, you're like, holy shit, that's absolutely barbaric. And at the same time, you're really starting to get invested in your main character here. She's got a lot of flaws, but you're very much pulled into her story. And the way this book starts, and then the way that it finishes, it's just like, holy cow. I feel like it's sort of a metaphor, right? Like the kill train is a metaphor for the book in general. Like it starts off extraordinarily violent, and then it pumps the brakes like a train, like on the tracks, comes to a screeching halt. And then the story sort of builds and builds and builds. And then it goes right back to 1,000 miles an hour again, just jolting everyone out of their goddamn skin. Written by Olivia Quartero Briggs with art by Martina Niosi. Man, they are, pun intended, killing it with this first issue, Nicholas. Nope. Can't hear you, Nicholas. So I'm going to keep going. There we go.
I just muted myself. Sorry
There
about
we
that.
go.
Yeah. Well, you get very upset when you can hear me typing, so I just wanted to make sure that I didn't upset the
That I do.
upset the boss. But my bad. Yeah, they're not creators that have been on our radar previously,
Yeah.
and I was very impressed by this first issue from the both of them. It really was out of freaking control, and honestly, Joe, I think you broke it down really well. I don't really have a whole lot to add other than I echo your sentiment.
Yeah. The book was absolutely wild, man. Holy cow. Just absolutely wild.
All right. And then we got 3 more to break down. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna keep things up with the whole we talk about a lot of violent books anyways. I mean, that's a lot of what goes on in comics for sure. But I am gonna keep up the theme, at least of it being in the title. Murder Kingdom, issue 3. Again, another creative team that we're not as familiar with. Fred Van Lent is the writer, and Chris Panda is the artist. And Kill Train could supplant Murder Kingdom for this title that I'm about to bestow upon Murder Kingdom. But at this point, I really think this is the most underrated book in the market right now. Each issue has been more and more and fucking more crazy. And not only did this issue have twists and turns in the hunt for the killer, but we got a lot more depth added to this. Like now we understand some of the motivations, or at least we have suspicions as to some of the motivations that are behind the killer's actions. And all the while, this has felt like a story that is of the moment in a way because of the commentary on like amusement parks. But at the same time, the way things go in this issue, that was amplified even more so.
Yeah, that we got a bit of an urban legend aspect to the story that was added in this issue, sort of going back to some of the, sort of going to some of the fairy tales in general origins, tracing all the way back to the Brothers Grimm and sort of the theme park and the theme park's creator. So I really love that about that. We got like, it was almost like a little bit of an origin story without it being an origin story, right? Kind of told through like that urban legend style of storytelling. And Briar Rose, she's the best. I love her, right? And so we got many great elements here. We got sort of like this pseudo detective story going on, even though no characters in the book are detectives, but still that whodunit feel, I should say. While you've got the horror elements to it, there's the violence is just wildly unique and fantastic. Everything about this book is just sublime.
Which Briar Rose is your favorite Briar
Oh,
Rose?
well, the main Briar Rose, not the batshit crazy Briar
She's
Rose.
nuts. I'm all set. Thanks. All right. So we got
They say
two.
redheads are crazy, Nicholas. I'll tell you.
That is a thing. Yes. Yeah. We should get Jason Momoa on the program. He can give us a whole breakdown.
Oh,
But anyways, so we got two more books from Mad Cave to take a look at. Why don't you tell me your thoughts on Dark Empty Void? We got issue 3 of that this week.
yeah. So, not a little peek behind the curtains. The chat that we're going to be recording later on is dealing with a book that is very claustrophobic, and that all started, really the feeling of claustrophobia in books started with Dark Empty Void, written by Zach Kaplan, and we get the third issue of that, and man, this book just gets more and more wild. Zach has given us some really meta stories, right? And I love that about his writing, because like sometimes you can get lost in the sauce when things start to get like abstract and really meta, and but he's able to do so in a way that keeps the story grounded, keeps the story entertaining, while also kind of taking things to the next level. And that's how I felt like in this issue in particular. Like the suspense was very real. That feeling of shit closing in on you, right? Because this is a story about black holes or being sucked in. Right? That I felt like that really emanated in this issue. Like I thought, like the first issue did a great job of that. This issue, even more so, and we got so many layers added to it as well. And it was also a highly emotional issue. Again, like the first issue, you're talking about, again, very, intimate things with the main character talking about, depression and the failing of her marriage and all of that. And you really feel that, and you really connect to that character because she's very relatable. And then that's magnified even more so in this particular issue. So this really does have everything. It's got that emotional gut punch. It's got that feeling of claustrophobia, that suspense, that horror element to it. So I really, really love this series. This is part of the reason why Zach Kaplan was my 2024 floppy winner for writer, of the year. And this is part of the reason why Mad Cave also was the MVP, the most valuable publisher of the year. Stories like this was an absolutely excellent issue.
The only thing that I want to add is this is in terms of action, this had the most of any issue.
Oh,
The thing
yeah.
that obviously the first issue didn't really have any. The second one did have some. This ramped it up quite a bit more, and it's everything's really chaotic going into the fourth issue in a good way. But
Yeah.
yes, I agree. Like this is I Zach won the award for both of us, so it didn't really matter. But I would have loved to get more of this in 2024. But at the same time, like whenever we get it, we get it. This has been an outstanding series. And then to round things out, the one of 4 series that is wrapping up at least, or at least it's the end of this first arc. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll have to talk to Amit and Elliot at some point on the show down the line again. But The Last Wardens, issue 6, their artist on this series is Rui Silveira. And I really liked how things wrapped up from a plot standpoint. Maybe not necessarily for the characters. It wasn't the best for all of them because things certainly get messy. And that's the way it's been this whole series. And it was such a fitting end. And honestly, that's all you and I care about. And I know some people still need things to be always happy at the end of stories, but it's not how it should work. That's like you can't always tell it. If it's always going to be a happy ending, then you're limited in how good your story is going to be. I really hope that we get more of The Last Wardens because I feel like these characters have a lot more to offer. This is a fun series, fun characters, but I feel like we could spend even more time getting to know each of these wardens because we spent so much time with Danielle Pryor in this series.
Yeah, this is this is a series where if we don't get any more, it was a perfect ending and it was a
Yes.
great series. But, it leaves the door open. So, if we do get a second arc, right, then it can go in any direction, right? And then a third arc, right? This is a type of series where it really can, because of what the last wardens do, right? There's this sort of like this monstrous A team, if you will,
Mhm,
right? Where there's just like each arc just revolves around a different mission, right? So, as long as, Mad Cave wants to keep rolling with it, I feel like Amit and Elliot can take it, to a lot of great places. So, I love this story because the action has been so great throughout. The story has been excellent, but it's also, um, you know, Danielle is such she went through a lot in this series, and this is a story about letting go and the difficulty that can have on someone. Some people can do it very easily, others can't, right?
mhm.
And the way this ended, I thought was very apropos. It was very emotional, right? The series is in general, especially the last issue was fairly emotional as well, and so everything about this was just a fitting conclusion. And now that we've sort of gotten past that, like you said, I want to see these characters further developed, further grow, and what places they can go.
Yeah, absolutely. And this again all speaks to the quality of Mad Cave. What an awesome week for them. This is a great representation of all the stories that they have to offer. I don't think you can expect week to week to have, what is this, like 7 or 8 issues? It's like the stories from Mad Cave on the shelves. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind if we see that at some point, down the line, be more of a consistent thing. But 3 to 4 is usually their thing. All right, let me go through a few of these here, Joe. So we got IDW, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 6. Then we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin Volume 2 Re-Evolution issue 4. Star Trek Defiant issue 23. My Little Pony: Rise of Candace issue 1. Or Candance. Is that what it is?
Uh, can dance,
Okay.
cadence, maybe,
I'm
yeah,
subtracting and adding letters and just why
yeah.
not? From Fault, I know where our My Little Pony readers are going to be pissed, which is Trish and Tony, which is probably not the right people to upset.
Well, bronies are real, Nicholas. I don't want to piss off the bronies.
Okay. Um, from Vault, we got Something Crawled Out issue 4. Apparently, we have Goobers issue 2, but I don't know if that's correct. And then Kid Maroon issue 1, same deal again. Vault is taking their stuff in house. I saw that because of all the diamond stuff. So I'm hoping some of that gets cleaned up on League of Comic Geeks from a tracking standpoint. From Titan, we got Lenore, The Time War issue 1, and then one of Joe's favorite titles, Minky Woodcock, The Girl Called Cthulhu issue 4. And you guys may think I'm joking, but you have been enjoying that series, right?
Oh, it is a pulp is the best way to describe it, right? It's got this like the vibe to it is absolutely wild. This is it's a messed up story, but it's so good. It is so out of my normal wheelhouse. It's not even funny, but I love everything about it, especially the name Minky Woodcock. that
Yeah, of
is
course.
that is just fun to say.
It is quite the name. From Wake Entertainment, we got Dead Samurai issue 2, which Joe talked about the first issue after that one came out. From Dynamite, we got Thundercats issue 12, Red Sonja issue 18, Vampirella issue 674, and Silverhawks issue 1, which I believe was an 80 show. And all of this, Joe, reminds me, we got an announcement last week, I believe it was, that David Pepos, who is doing some cable stuff right now, who did one of my all-time horror comics, The Devil That Wears My Face from Mad Cave Studios with Alex Cormack. He's going to be doing Captain Planet over
No,
at
that's
Dynamite.
right.
And I did watch Captain Planet as a kid. I am excited to see this. Did you watch Captain Planet, or is that too late
I
for you?
sure as hell did.
You did.
I
All right.
sure as hell did.
So no dibs will be had on this one, but I'll tell you what, it's although it would probably be good if I did Captain Planet and you did Thundercats in the same episode. But I don't want to pull that from you. I'm very excited to check this out. I love what Dynamite's doing from in practice. Like, it's why not bring all of these back? If nobody's doing anything with them, let's have some fun with this old stuff. Like, because you and I will go and read Marvel, we'll go and read DC for sure. We love to get indie stuff that is new, but we also love to see some shit that's like, hey, we all had fun with this back in the day. Like, no one's using it. then why don't we just have some fucking fun with it? Who's it hurting at this point?
Right.
And then why don't you take us through what we got from Image and so we got some Skybound too this week, I think.
Yeah, so a rare week in which there's a lot of Image stuff, but not a ton that we're reading here, but I'll go through them all. We have Redcoat issue 9, Ice Cream Man issue 43, The Scorched issue 38, The Rockefellers issue 3, Black Cloak issue 11, Violator Origin issue 5, Salmon Twitch Case Files issue 10, Hornsby and Halo issue 3, Knights vs. Samurai issue 5, a book that you've been reading, Dust to Dust issue 2, Blood Squared 7 issue 6, Mirka Andolfo's Sweet Paprika Open for Business issue 3, The Seasons issue 1, which we both read, Nicholas. There's some potential there. Blood Train issue 1, and that is it from Image Skybound.
All right, we're going to round things out this week with Boom because they had the book that, for me, was the book of the week definitively. I had so much fun reading it. But before we get to that, Hello Darkness, my old friend, issue 7, Red Before Black, issue 4, Jim Henson's Labyrinth, issue 5, and then we have the Book of Cutter, issue 1. But this is a one shot. We got, what was it, the Book of Slaughter before? Is that right? Was that the
We
one
got
shot?
we got the Book of Slaughter, we got the Book of Boucher, and I think we've got the Book of Cutter. There's 3 of them. I can pop that up real quick there, Nicholas.
Okay, so this is of course by James Tynion IV with art by Werther Della Dera, Antonio Fuso, and Lizia Candassini. And we heard about this first at C2E2 when we were there for James's panel that he did on the Slaughterverse, and what a miraculous job this single issue did of expanding the world and setting the stage for what's to come, all while telling a cool story in the process. It introduces new characters, fleshes out others, just sheer brilliance. And if you've been wanting more of history on the Slaughterverse, this is the issue for you. Holy shit, Joe.
Yeah, it was absolutely tremendous. So it's the Book of Butcher, the Book of Cutter, and the Book of Slaughter. And what's great about all 3 of these books is that it gives you just that. It gives you these, you've got the story that's embedded in there, but you also get sort of this history lesson, right? Journal entries, book entries. And what's great about, this issue is that like it all fits. It doesn't feel like a data page that you get from the X-Men books, right? Where you've got your main character, Maxine, who is she's still a pupil, and she's got a couple of teachers, and they're encouraging her to read and to listen. So like you're sort of reading as she's reading. So there's this beautiful political chess game that's going on that I absolutely love, right? There's a lot of intrigue. There's a lot of moving pieces going on here. And at the same time, it's also setting the stage for what's to come when Something is Killing the Children returns. So it's a beautiful way of giving you this sort of oversized, one shot with all this information that's both pertinent to the story at hand. It's pertinent to where the story is going, but also just gives you all of this rich detail about the Order of St. George. And this for all Something is Killing the Children fans, like this is a must-read book, and I would highly recommend going back and getting your hands on the Book of Slaughter and the Book of Butcher, because they're all like these awesome companion pieces. They're almost like encyclopedic, right?
Yeah.
In nature, like good reference books on top of also telling you a great story in there as well. And so all the pieces are really starting to come together. Like you said, you get introduced to some new characters, some devious characters in there as well. And I just love that. And I can't wait. This makes me the anticipation for Something is Killing the Children is even greater now after reading
Yeah.
this.
How can it not be? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that Tynan promised when it came to like this year for the Slaughterverse fans. I mean, in last year, 2024 was all about bringing in new Slaughterverse readers while still giving us really cool stories, but they're all contained issues throughout that one arc. We got Something is Killing the Children issue 0 as well, which does tie in a little bit here. But this year is supposed to be about people who have been reading for a long time, or maybe if you caught up all last year, whatever. But this is kicking it off in a big way. I will say, I don't think it's crazy that if you haven't read it at all, any of the Slaughterverse stuff, if you read this, I think you could still read it and appreciate it. You're not gonna get the full appreciation that Joe and I have, no way. But you can read it. You'll have questions, but I think those questions are gonna make you like, I gotta go read this. I gotta read the rest of this. Like, there's more to it here. But like, they talk about I'm blanking on the Cutter, the original Cutter character that we met. They reference her quite a bit, so maybe that's the only area where you would get a little bit like, oh,
Charlotte.
Charlotte. Yes, thank you. That may be the only bit. So maybe as I say that part,
There's a
maybe
lot of stuff in here, Nicholas, that if you haven't read before, you'd be like, huh, you know, this isn't the jumping on point that I would
no,
suggest,
that's
right?
fair.
But there is still a lot of great stuff in there. Even like I would say, like this is really good. Like, maybe you just cut on, the past year or so or whatever. Like you can read this and be okay, but I do think you have to have a little bit of a primer um before
Yeah,
going to this, or else you're going to be kind of going, eh.
I think because of the reference to Charlotte, as much as there is, I think that would make it a little bit tougher. The reason I thought that at first is like it's focused on the people who are there. I mean, in building out the lore of the whole world, and there's so many other things. Like so much of it like doesn't fall into what we're seeing with House of Slaughter and what do you call it? And
but
some of
there
these children.
but there is a lot of references there towards the end
Yeah,
regarding Erica, right? And sort of
yeah.
what's gone on with her and why she's sort of so important there. So yeah, that would
This is fair. This is fair.
yeah.
It's like you said, it's not the best jumping on point, but it's fucking awesome. So if you're planning on reading something that's killing the children, make sure you just get it, and then you can read it once you've caught up and everything. That's the best resolution. But as we said off the top of the show, make sure you subscribe to one of our audio channels if you have not already. We may or may not have some stuff in the works. But either way, until next week, Joe, stay sexy.
You know it, baby. Oh, God, what? Keep reading, baby. Woo!